Welcome to Business Beyond Borders, the go-to podcast for CPA firms seeking transformative insights. I'm your host, Lawrence Whittam, and with each episode we'll uncover key insights, best practices, and invaluable resources tailored for CPAs. From trending strategies to diving deep into outsourcing and offshoring, our experts will help in all areas of your business. Hey everybody, and welcome back to Business Beyond Borders. So I have an exciting guest today, Henry from Chrome CPA, who has a great background working with some other firms as well over his career. And he's going to help us out by just discussing a little bit about what firms should be doing differently to help attract talent to this profession. And he's also had a bit of experience from the outsourcing perspective. So we'll go into that a little bit as to what he's doing, what he sees other firms doing, and how they're succeeding at utilizing talent, not just necessarily offshore, but also just virtually in general, because now we're in quite a virtual environment. So working with different firms and then being able to share is super helpful to everybody. So I really appreciate Henry you jumping on and sharing this. And if you don't mind giving a bit of information about yourself, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. First, just let everyone know that I was a non-traditional student in the sense that I went back to school to get my accounting degree, to get my master's. I was a finance degree. I went back to school probably around the age, I don't know, maybe 27, 28. But I started at Big Four. Audit was Deloitte here in Las Vegas. Did that for a couple of years. Then I transitioned and worked at a local boutique firm that did audit and tax. That firm ended up getting merged in with Eide Bailly, and I worked on audit primarily when it was Eide Bailly in government audits as well as private company audits. And then I made the decision to switch to tax while at Eide Bailly and spent a couple of years doing tax at Eide Bailly. And then I went to a California firm called Citron Cooperman. And I made the transition because they paid me more, as well as they let me work remote. The firm was based out of California. And so I did that for about 3 years. And then I realized, I just want to work less. I love what I do, but I just want to work less. And under the traditional business model, it's billable hours. And so the only way to get paid the same and work less was to start my own firm. So that's my career path within the accounting profession. And so I think I've been in the profession for about 10 years. So a lot of variety of experiences.
So do you want to start out? Because again, you've been in, multiple size firms, from some of the largest internationally to the largest regionally, right? In a lot of cases, now to start in your own. I mean, can you maybe share a little bit about, and again, this is big change over a small amount of time, realistically, being in the profession in a lot of cases, right? I mean, within firms, they've had huge things where they've had to change, but can you maybe share a bit about your experience? You don't need to mention at which firm necessarily, right? Okay. But what was the experience like working in those large multinational to the large regionals? Like, what were big differences that when you were there, you maybe said, wow, I really prefer this over what I was doing, or maybe you actually prefer it a different way?
That's a good question. When you first start out, I think you want I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. And so I went into audit to give me a lot more wider experience. At the larger firms, top 25, Big Four, they're really great that they have a lot of resources. There's a lot of incredibly talented people there. And they also have systems and processes in place. And so that's really good. And it was really good structure for somebody that's brand new out of school. However, if you already know you want to start your own firm, I think joining a middle market firm or possibly even a local firm that's a little bit smaller would be really helpful, because you get to see the process, I want to say, from front to end, because at a much larger firm, you're dealing with much larger companies, and it's hard to know the process from front to end because they're so large. Like, I just worked on certain areas within an audit, within taxes. It's kind of narrowed. at a larger firm, I still worked on the whole tax return from front to end, but I had a lot of help. There's staff, outsourcing, as well as partner level coming in and doing the much higher level analysis of certain tax areas. And so what I did like about the larger firms is a lot of structure, a lot of process, a lot of resources, as well as since I didn't know what to do, it had a good name on my resume if I decided to look for another firm. And so that was really helpful. What I didn't like about it was obviously the longer hours, the narrow focus on certain areas. And then on the other side, being at a smaller firm, I really like being able to do everything from front to end. They seem a lot more appreciative because these are usually smaller, mid-sized businesses that aren't super familiar with bookkeeping, tax planning, and just kind of overall organizing their finances. As well,
I would say
much more. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, and what I see is that typically those middle firms or smaller firms, when they're regional, I mean, you've got a lot more compliance focused at the end of the day, right? I mean, and again, the complexity of clients aren't as strong as those big firms at the end of the day. So it's now when you're doing that and when you started to see that difference, like, did you really know that getting into it, right? Was it quite clear as well? Because what I hear is that it's going through the profession and it's quite difficult to really understand like the elements that you've just mentioned in terms of like, I have to go to a regional firm. If I want to do the end to end, I got to go to a small firm or a regional. If I go to an EY, obviously the name's on the door. However, it's very difficult to get an end to end type role because you get specialized quite quickly, right? So is it very clear, that element, when you're coming out of school even? And I know you went through school a bit later to come back to the accounting field, right? From that sense, but is it very clear that that's the route that you should take?
I don't believe so. I mean, when I was at UNLV, the big push was for Big Four, as well as the regional firms that we had in town. I mean, part of it is just they just had the most presence from recruiting events, and it's easy to sell you on the biggest players in the game, telling you get to work with the largest firms, and so that's really intriguing. It's a lot more sexy, right? Like you got to work with these Fortune 500 firms, Fortune 100 firms, Fortune 50 firms. And so the smaller firms, their pitch was obviously the work-life balance. And like we said, working from end to end, from front to end. But as a student, a lot of times we don't know what we want to do. I was just even debating between audit or tax, and we didn't even think about consulting. And so it was a lot to take in, and it's almost like too many options. I mean, with an accounting, like, you can almost do whatever you like. And as a student, you're like, I thought I just went and got a degree and I'm just going to go get a good job. Like, like you mean there's going to be, even within accounting, there's like hundreds of jobs that I can pick from. Do I want to go private? Do I want to go Big Four? Do I want to go top 25, top 100, top 200? What industries, private, public? I mean, it's information overload. And so I think I was a typical student where I just went with, the most exit opportunities, and which was audit, and something that kind of padded my resume. And students, I didn't know that many students that knew they wanted to start their own firm right out of the gate, unless maybe their family had their own practices. Hey, go to these big firms, get the education, build the network, build the relationships, and then start your own firm. So I don't think we really knew that. And even if we did, we still don't know exactly what the best path would be. Heck, people in 5 years in don't even know exactly what the path is. So
no, exactly. I mean, and now when you were with that regional and mid-sized firm, right? So, and coming to your transition to then starting your own firm, right? What were maybe those key indicators that you felt in terms of like, no, you know what? Was it just that you felt ready in terms of like, you know what, I can do this and I can do it the way that I like to do it. And I like the entrepreneurial piece of going out and getting the business as well. Or again, was it more of that, like, I'm fed up of being in more of this corporate environment and I would prefer to make it my way where I can work virtually? Like what were some of those pieces that maybe like you had, and maybe you talked to colleagues as well and they had a certain thing and they maybe went a different path. They didn't start their own, but they maybe went into private, right? Or whatever the case is. Like, what were some of those driving factors?
For me, the primary driving factor was probably the pain aspect of it, where I knew how the business could be ran. And I just really felt like the business model was just absolutely broken. And it didn't help that we had such a staffing shortage. And so there was the same amount of work that had to be done with limited people. And so I was just like, what is this? There is a better way. I've seen other people do it. I've seen other firms do it. And, and it's like, I can either keep talking about it or I can do something about it. So that's the first step. The second step is, do you have the confidence and the belief that you can become successful? And that, even saying it out loud, it's easy to say, but it's really difficult to believe. I struggle with it a lot. And it came to the point where I did all my research. I saved my money. You can see my posts. Like, I did all the things I thought I needed to do. And even when I had all those money saved up, business plan, business coach, I'm just sitting there like, okay, now you have this. Why don't you just go do it? And it was still really difficult. And finally, my wife kind of gave me some like not harsh words, just kind of like motivating, but just kind of like, you've been talking about this for a year. You have your peers that have done it. You have more experience than them. They come to you for advice. Like, why can't you do it? Like, you gotta like, just take the plunge. Like, I support you. So it's like harsh, but also supportive. And I think that's what I also tell people. It's like, how did you do this? And I go, I can tell you everything. I can give you all the coaching. I can give you all my software. I can give you my playbook, but it's really your own personal belief that like, you're going to be okay, even if you fail. Because I think that's like the most fearful thing, is that you're going to fail and then the world is going to end. But in reality, the chances of failure, in my opinion, are fairly low if you just follow somebody that's already done it. And let's just say you're the small percentage that fail it, or maybe you just don't like it being on your own. We have a talent shortage. You're going to find a job somewhere. And so if you truly believe that, then I think that's when you will make the move. But yeah, the driving force was just the pain. Like,
yeah.
Is the pain strong enough for you to do something about it?
Now, touching on that, because again, you mentioned this, the talent shortage aspect of it. And again, I know a little bit from your side. And again, I don't, obviously, like, my role is I consult with firms and help them along with the outsourcing and offshore journeys. But again, I mean, the big thing is, because I see a lot of them struggle to do it because it is quite different. But these firms that you're talking about, obviously, they have the infrastructure as well. I mean, I think a lot of them are still working through it as well. They're not necessarily like super advanced at doing it. But again, EY has their back office and Citrin has their back office in India, right? I mean, so a lot of them have built it but you're telling me that obviously, like, even though they had the back office, there was still the talent shortage effect somewhat on the front end, being here in the US. And it wasn't necessarily as seamless as even the guys doing it. It's not necessarily that they're doing it well just yet, right?
Yeah. Even with outsourcing, offshoring is fantastic. That helps. But there still needs to get done on the review side, as well as just the data. Data is, the whole thing, garbage in, garbage out type thing. And so if you don't train clients to give us good data, for example, if all their business information is not even organized, it's not even in QuickBooks, and they just give you bank statements, and you just give that to somebody outsourced or even first year staff, it's going to be really difficult for them to piece it together unless they have that experience. And even if they do, like, you don't know how long it's going to take them. Maybe there's personal and business mixed in. But let's just say everything is within QuickBooks and they did QuickBooks. Most people actually don't know bookkeeping. I didn't understand bookkeeping when I went to a smaller firm, and I spent 2 years at a big four firm, and you don't get taught bookkeeping because they usually have sophisticated accounting departments that do the debits and credits. And then when you look at it, if you work at a small firm, they think you know how to do it because that's what they do. Like, now I know bookkeeping and I know how to fix things, but when you're working at a higher level, you don't. And so giving that to offshoring, outsourcing, or first year staff, it's really difficult for them to understand. So yes, the resources are great, but you still need to give them some good data and some predictability. Another thing that's challenging is under the billable hours model, the more hours you have, the more money you make. And so if their books were clean and things are tidied up, you don't have as much billable hours, even though there's more than enough work out there. That's what I've noticed is there's not as much proactivity on the front end to make their books clean, even though they say they would like it. But I think clients are just trained that, like, the books will get fixed during tax time, which is not the best time to be doing their books, no. Right? Because there's also deadlines, and that was another thing that was really challenging for me to grasp. Is like, bookkeeping should have been done the prior year. Like, why don't we require them to do it? Either we do it or refer them to a bookkeeper. But then someone told me at a firm that says, like, well, some partners thrive on that business model because now they can bill out $250, $400 an hour to do bookkeeping. And then you also, get charged the hourly rate to do their taxes. And so, like, it wouldn't make much sense for them to train them to get good books, because in theory, if you are true billable hours, you would get paid less on that client. It'd be easier, but you get paid less.
Yeah.
And for me, I was thinking, like, I don't think the client cares. I think you can still build them whatever you build them before, and train them to use QuickBooks Online, or maybe meet them in the middle, since they are going to be doing some of the front end work. Or we could take on the bookkeeping. Like, find a price that makes sense to them, because it's not, the client doesn't care how long it takes as long as it's done. And they also don't care if you spend 100 hours on it, but it's not done. So it works. It goes both ways. And so when I realized that and talking with more people, that's when I realized I wanted to change the model. And with the firms using all these resources, it's just still not enough. There's just so much work out there.
I would assume you can plan from a business perspective a lot easier, because you're typically signing these clients up from now more of a SaaS-based model, right? A monthly retainer where they're coming in. So you've got consistent pay, so you've got consistent revenue coming in, right? You're able to now invest certain amounts of time into it, where it's not, because at the end of the day, you have to rely on team members and too many staff towards the end of the year otherwise, right? But now you're also going to have huge lulls in a lot of cases outside of those seasons, where it's quite difficult from a business perspective when they have that.
Yeah.
Now, are you following that complete system? Are you doing like very much like month to month type signups where they're working with you and you're doing just again, more of that SaaS-based model now?
I'm moving towards that direction. I have a few clients that are on a monthly subscription for bookkeeping, but in terms of the tax planning and tax preparation, it's still more so an annual engagement. The payments are annual. So how I do the payments is 50% upfront, 50% on completion, but I work with them throughout the whole year. I've gotten mixed feedback on charging a monthly fee because you work with them throughout the year. Sometimes if they don't talk to you, like, not everybody has tax questions every single month. And so sometimes when they get paid up each month, they're like, well, I didn't get any value from that. Whereas I have another friend that does 100% upfront, and they do tax planning, and they're like, here's the bill, you pay, and they kind of give them the structure. And so, of the timeline of how they work. And so I kind of went in the middle because, we're dealing with five figures, well, four figures, sometimes five figures. And some people don't have that kind of funding. And so I like to split up in 50-50. And I think that's as much as I want to split it.
Okay.
But ideally, I think I would like to move to a monthly model.
Gotcha. And now and can you explain a bit about, so when you are using team members, right, whether it was from previous days, whether it's now, like, what have you seen is the type of work that is a bit more consistent to be outsourced and is a bit easier to be able to scale on that side compared to maybe other types of work that you've maybe tried to outsource and it's not as consistently coming back to the quality maybe you expect, or you had to spend a lot more time putting controls in place to really get it to that place. Can you share a bit of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think tax compliance can be outsourced and does work very well as long as you have a consistent process, as well as the prior year work papers are good. Like you'll talk to everybody, it's Sally, same as last year. Yep. And that model's fine as long as the data is good and it's consistent. When you tell somebody it's Sally and hypothetically, I've seen this before, they rush through it and they barely had any work papers, a first year staff or somebody that's outsourced is going to have no idea. Like, you think they should know, but if they haven't worked on the client and they don't know where to find the information, they wouldn't know how to do it. But if you had the right work papers and things were documented correctly and it was similar the following year, it'd be super easy for them. And so that's where I've seen it be successful. And then that's where I have seen it not be successful because, once again, it's the data. So if you tell somebody to do the same as last year and it's missing information, there's not much they can really do.
Yeah. And now, is there any preferred place that you've had success, right, from that perspective as well? Like, have you worked with teams, I don't know, in the Philippines compared to India or South America, or have you worked with people virtually within the US where you've had quite good contractor type engagements that have worked out very well? Like, can you share a little bit about that?
Majority of my time, I've worked with the teams based out of India. Recently, I've worked with people in the Philippines, and I've honestly been really impressed with the work product in terms of the price that is being paid for it, as well as their knowledge, because a lot of these people got training from the much larger firms, and taxes, once you get it, I don't think it's really that difficult. That's why, I'm not trying to be the best tax preparer because it's the race to the bottom in terms of fees.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've been really impressed with the Philippines and India. I mean, I'm partial to the Philippines because my wife is Filipino, but both, I've only worked with those two places, India and the Philippines. And as long as you give them good instructions and you have good data for them to reference, they're fantastic. I mean, it's unreal the cost benefit analysis to offshore. So hence why most firms are offshoring and even smaller firms are offshoring. And I think that's just going to have to be part of the tools in your tool belt moving forward to be competitive, in my opinion.
And now again, there's lots of models in order how to do it, right? But I mean, it sounds like you probably work on more of a project-based model. You work with maybe the same people or the same firms, right, in those locations to help you. But it sounds like you probably get charged per project or per hour, right? And again, based on your firm size, that fits well for now, right? Do you think you will move to more of a dedicated model where you're working with specific employees, or do you like the process you built where this works very well for you from those projects?
I'm designing my firm where it doesn't matter. Ideally, I think if you have the same people, it makes things much smoother. But I also know that our profession, there is unfortunately high turnover. In my opinion, like, they'll go somewhere where they're going to pay them more, or, they just get burned out, or they just want a different experience. But from the employer side, right, you just want them to be doing the same thing over and over again, because we get really good at it, really efficient, and get things out. And knowing that, and through my experience, I need to develop systems and processes in place that it doesn't matter who works on it. They're going to understand it, and it's going to be a smooth process regardless. It's just going to be smoother if it's going to be the same person, the same team that will do it.
Perfect. And again, the importance of standard operating procedures, like standardizing everything, is just going to make things so much easier down the line, not from just working with outsourced team members that are the same person every time, but again, working on a project perspective is so important to do so. And again, having the metrics and KPIs, and then you've got a framework for it, right? Then if it's done well, if it's not done well, if people are taking too long and everything. So, and it takes time to develop that, right, at the end of the day, but it's hugely important. So as we wrap up, again, Henry, super helpful. And again, I appreciate you sharing a little bit about your firm as well and how you're building it. I mean, is there anything from a 30,000 foot view, essentially, right, looking at the profession where it is now, like, if you could change one thing, right, to attract more talent to the profession, and you could speak to a bunch of managing partners in different size firms and just say, guys, this is what we need to do, what would it be? Big question, obviously. So
yeah, I think the answer is pretty clear. I mean, we've done surveys on it. It's, if the model doesn't change, you need to pay more and reduce the hours. That's if you don't want to change. Otherwise, the other alternative long term would be to change the business model, and to change the business model and to compensate people and not have them work these crazy hours. I mean, they take the surveys, and that's what people respond with. I wish there was some secret that, like, I could say, or something different. But yeah, that is what I've seen. And like, that's probably what would have kept me to stay, is if, compared to what I could be making somewhere else, more money. Cool. and less hours.
No, appreciate it. No, again, I mean, completely agree. It's definitely one of, if not the top point, right? And that's and again, I mean, the big thing is sharing that, right, and being able to change it, right? And I see some firms trying to, right? Again, change management is a little bit more difficult with larger and larger firms in a sense, but it is it's sort of a systemic problem across the board, right? And again, everybody needs to do their part at the end of the day to make that change, right? And everybody needs to be cognizant of it at the end of the day. So super appreciate it, Henry. And again, everybody, I really hope that you've had a good episode. And again, if you're a small firm, I'm sure Henry's quite happy to talk to anybody, right? And I know that he's very active on social media, on LinkedIn especially. So he's shared his journey. And again, I've read through that, and it's a good place. And again, you should be able to talk to people about this, right? And share with what you're doing, because at the end of the day, people go through very similar challenges. And again, reading other people's stories is a great way to sort of define as to, okay, this is how I can potentially overcome whatever problem I'm facing right now in my journey. Right. So appreciate it, Henry. I mean, do you have anything to share? Where specifically can anybody find you if they want to reach out?
Yeah, like you said, I'm really active on LinkedIn. I think that is a great platform for me. And so, yeah, find me on LinkedIn, and reach out to me through the messaging, and we can have a conversation, or hopefully I have enough posts that can answer a lot of your questions that I consistently get.
Awesome. Thanks, Henry. And everybody, I hope you had a good time on Business Beyond Borders this week, and look forward to seeing you next week on a new episode. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Business Beyond Borders. I'm Lawrence Whittam, and it's been a pleasure bringing you impactful insights tailored for the modern CPA firm. Remember, the world of accounting is vast and ever evolving, and we're here to navigate it together. For more resources and episodes, don't forget to subscribe and reach out to our experts. Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries of your business and explore the limitless possibilities beyond borders.